So before we talk about mobile technology in too much detail, we want to talk about two prerequisites just for kind of conceptually understanding, how we can build various kinds of mobile apps. The first is to, understand the HTTP protocol a little bit to understand the concept of a user agent. So when you send a request to a remote web server, you're sending an HTTP request and getting back an HTTP response. What is an HTTP request? You can click this link. You can think of it as a function call like get or post that accepts a positional argument like a URL, a resource, and a long list of optional keyword arguments, which would be the HTTP headers. And there's various tools with which you can generate these HTTP requests. You can use curl, you can use a web browser, you can use a library call like nodes libraries. You can use a web UI like hurl.it. And I like hurl.it because it really strips it down to its essentials. Here's an example of a very, very simple HTTP request we're issuing to Airbnb.com, a GET request, and here's the response. It's being served by Nginx. It's 35,541 bytes, and it's a status 200. That's a working thing, and it's got various other kinds of things in the response. Notice that if we send a header along with this request, user agent, we're putting in the iPhone user agent. You can just Google for iPhone user agent, it's just a string. It's weird. You might ask, why does the iPhone user agent have Mozilla and stuff like that? That's all historical weirdnesses. But basically, this user agent, notice that by adding it, we get something very different. In the response, it now says m.airbnb.com. So this is an example of a website that uses the HTTP user agent to return two different websites, one for desktop and one for mobile, m.airbnb.com. So this is one technique to deal with different kinds of, or to have mobile apps. Now, the downside of this technique is that to do user agent sniffing, which is what that's called, is fraught with issues, right? Nevertheless, many major websites actually do this. The reason it's fraught with issues is to do user agent sniffing. The one issue is that the client may fake its user agent. For example, your Chrome user agent switcher, the thing that we installed in the previous lecture, will actually fake the user agent when it's making a request. Another issue is that user agents are a little bit unreliable because they're just a pain to maintain. They've got all these weirdnesses and stuff associated with them. That said, a lot of sites do still use them to serve up special mobile sites. So make a decision as to whether or not you want to use this technique or not. I throw it out there for completeness. You can read these links that criticize it. The other way of doing it, or one other way of doing a special mobile site is basically what we did in the homework, which is responsive web design and a CSS media query. So what is a media query? It's basically something that lets you apply certain styles conditionally based on whether or not you're looking at an iPhone screen or an iPad screen or a desktop screen. And the way it does this is by looking at the width and the resolution width of the device that is connecting. You can kind of click over here to take a look at mediaquery.es for examples of sites that are done with responsive web design, and look at the MDN website CSS media queries for more information on this. But this is kind of another technique to serve up a mobile website.